Orlando, Florida. A charismatic, overweight music mogul named Lou Pearlman steps out of a private jet. Over 2 decades, he pocketed $300 million, stolen directly from the retirement savings of thousands of ordinary families. The strange part is, Pearlman was already a world-famous tycoon, the mastermind behind the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. His global pop empire was built entirely on a giant lie, triggering an international manhunt that would chase him all the way to a beach in Bali. To understand how Lou Pearlman pulled off a $300 million fraud for over 2 decades, we have to look past the flashing cameras of MTV and step into the early 1980s. Long before he ever heard of a boy band, Pearlman was obsessed with aviation. He started a blimp leasing company called Airship International and took it public by falsely claiming a partnership. But Pearlman wanted more. He created a fictitious entity called Continental Airlines Travel Services, which later evolved into Continental Airlines, Inc. He told investors that this was a highly successful, massive commercial charter airline. To make it highly attractive to ordinary savers, he introduced the Employee Investment Savings Account. Pearlman promised high, risk-free returns. To ease any fears, he provided investors with highly official-looking documents claiming their money was fully insured by the FDIC, Lloyd's of London, and AIG. But it was all a lie. The FDIC had no record of him. Lloyd's of London had never heard of his program. Pearlman had spent years meticulously forging these insurance certificates. He didn't just forge insurance. He invented an entire financial ecosystem. He created a completely fake German bank and a non-existent South Florida accounting firm to sign off on his financial statements. In reality, Continental Airlines was nothing more than a paper empire, ghost company designed to swallow millions of dollars in cash. By the early 1990s, Pearlman realized he needed a powerful distraction to keep his growing fraud from being exposed. In 1992, he founded Continental Records. He saw the massive success of the new kids on the block and decided he could do it better. He put out talent calls and formed the Backstreet Boys. A few years later, in 1995, he did it again, launching NSYNC. Almost overnight, Pearlman became one of the most powerful men in the music industry. His boy bands dominated the global music charts, selling tens of millions of records and filling stadiums worldwide. This pop star success became Pearlman's ultimate shield. Whenever a bank or a wealthy investor asked questions about Continental Airlines, Pearlman would invite them to fly on his private jets, dine with world leaders, or stand backstage at a sold-out stadium. He would point at the screaming fans and the platinum records on his walls. Pearlman famously claimed that his Ponzi scheme was actually more believable than Bernie Madoff's because he had something that really made money: his boy bands. Investors looked at the glamour of his music empire and assumed his airline business must be just as incredibly profitable. They handed over their life savings, completely unaware that their money was being used to fund Pearlman's ostentatious lifestyle and keep his collapsing paper empire afloat. But while Pearlman was living like a billionaire, the young men who were actually generating his wealth were living like college students. After NSYNC's debut album sold over 10 million records, the band members, including Justin Timberlake and Lance Bass, were still being kept on a meager allowance of just $35 a day. One night, Pearlman invited the band to a lavish celebratory dinner. The boys expected to receive massive royalty checks. Instead, they were handed shockingly small checks that barely covered their basic living expenses. It was during this dinner that the reality of Pearlman's exploitation began to surface. Justin Timberlake's mother, Lynn Harless, later described the experience as being financially raped by a Svengali. The band members soon discovered that Pearlman had secretly written himself into their contracts as an unofficial 6th member of the band. This allowed him to siphon off a massive share of their earnings without their knowledge. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, members of both the Backstreet Boys, like Brian Littrell and A.J. McLean, and NSYNC began filing lawsuits against Pearlman for fraud. The public began to see the cracks in the boy band king's empire, but the worst was yet to come for the thousands of ordinary people who had trusted him with their futures. The lawsuits from his bands piled up. Pearlman's Ponzi scheme began to starve. A classic Ponzi scheme requires a constant, growing stream of new investor money to pay off the older investors. By late 2006, the inflow of cash could no longer sustain the massive payouts. In February 2007, Florida regulators officially exposed Pearlman's Continental savings program as a massive fraud. The financial devastation was catastrophic. Unlike wealthy institutional investors, many of Pearlman's victims were ordinary people, including his own relatives, close friends, and elderly retirees who had invested their entire retirement funds. Frank Marcia, a 62-year-old from Tampa, lost $30,000. Patty Wilson, a 60-year-old from Largo, lost $82,000 of her life savings. Devastated by the loss, Wilson famously stated that death would be too easy for Pearlman, reflecting the profound pain of thousands who saw their security instantly vanish. In March 2007, Pearlman's companies were forced into bankruptcy, and federal prosecutors filed bank fraud charges against him. Investigators realized that out of the estimated $300 million defrauded from banks and individuals, only $10 million could be recovered. The rest of the money was gone, and so was Lou Pearlman. The moment the fraud was exposed, Pearlman fled the country, triggering an international FBI manhunt. He didn't run alone. He convinced Michael Johnson, a former member of his band Natural, to travel with him to Southeast Asia. Johnson genuinely believed they were traveling for legitimate music projects. They moved from country to country, staying in luxury resorts. While the FBI desperately tried to track Pearlman's financial trail, it was only when they reached the island of Bali in Indonesia. Sitting in their resort, a desperate Pearlman finally confided in Johnson, admitting that he had been forging official documents. Johnson suddenly realized that their world travels were not a business trip, but a frantic run from federal agents. But Pearlman's luck was running out. On June 14, 2007, a tourist recognized the famous music mogul at a resort in Bali and alerted authorities. The FBI, working with local officials, moved in and arrested Pearlman on the spot. Photos of the once glamorous billionaire being led away in handcuffs by Indonesian police shocked the music world. The boy band king had finally been caught. In June 2007, a federal grand jury indicted Pearlman on charges of conspiracy, money laundering, and making false statements. Realizing he had no way out, Pearlman pleaded guilty in March 2008. At his sentencing on May 21, 2008, U.S. District Judge G. Kendall Sharp offered Pearlman a unique deal. The judge would reduce his 25-year prison sentence by 1 month for every $1 million Pearlman helped recover for his victims. But Pearlman never recovered any significant funds. The $300 million remained lost. Pearlman was sent to federal prison, where he died in custody on August 19, 2016, at the age of 62, having served only 8 years of his sentence. He left behind thousands of ruined lives, broken families, and a legacy of pure deception. But the true depth of Pearlman's greed wasn't just in the fake bank accounts he showed to retirees. It was hidden in the shockingly small paychecks he handed to the world's biggest pop stars. And that is the next case: NSYNC's $10,000 check, Lou Pearlman's $300 Ponzi scheme.